Hi everybody, my name is Sheree. I'm with the Monroe County Library System. I'm a youth outreach technician, and one of the things I do is read a lot of books. So I'm doing a book talk today about some great YA titles, and I want to start with some alternate, formats. This is The Poet X. This was the Prince Award winner. That's the award given to the best YA book of the year last year. The Poet X is about a young girl. What is this girl's name? Zamara. And she feels unseen in her world. She feels that she's treated a certain way by boys because of the way she looks. She's treated a certain way by teachers based on where she lives. Her family treats her a certain way based on expectations of what a daughter should be. And she has started to put her feelings down in a notebook that she keeps. Ultimately, she finds out about a poetry slam that's happening at school. And when she starts to think about entering some of her spoken word diary entries, she has to decide whether she's willing to reveal that about herself. It is written in what's called novel in verse, so it's written in poetry style. This is not fancy like, the green fields or the whatever. This is like her viewpoint of what her life is and how she feels and what she's experiencing. So that's The Poet X. Another alternate format is the graphic novel. So if you're not into just reading page after page of prose, there's a lot of different ways you can go at books. I used to think graphic novels were just like comic books, and I didn't see the point, but then I read some amazing and fantastic ones, and their stories are incredible. The pictures only enhance the story. So this is Hey Kiddo. It's written by Jared Prostakova, and he is a writer himself. When he was younger, he was born into a family that had a lot of substance abuse problems. His mom was addicted to heroin, and he was sent to live with his grandparents when he was 3 years old. She came in and out of his life after that, but primarily he lived with them. And while they loved him very much and took good care of him, there was a lot of alcohol in the family and a lot of fighting and ugliness. And it wasn't until he started to take art classes when he was in middle school that he started to find a way to understand what was happening to him. I don't know how much you can see, but the art in this book is very limited in color. It's a lot of black and white. There's grays, there's some rust, and it just adds to the power of the story he's telling. What happens in the end, I can't tell you, but he's a successful author now, so it turns out pretty well, I can say. I want to mention 3 books, and when I look at these books together, I see that they're all kind of similar in colors with the black and the white and red. These all speak to issues that are happening around us right now. Dear Martin is by Nick Stone. Read everything by Nick Stone, by the way. This is just the one I brought today. It's the story of Justice, who is called to go pick up his ex-girlfriend because she's had too much to drink at a party. When he gets her in the car and they're on their way home, they're stopped by a cop who gives Justice an awful lot of trouble and ends up arresting him, and his parents have to come get him. Despite the fact that he is at a fancy prep school, that he's going to the Ivy League college, he can't believe that what happens to him keeps happening simply because he's black. He starts to write imaginary letters to Martin Luther King. That's where the Dear Martin comes from. You can see this is a pretty quick read, but a very powerful read. Talks a lot about what's happening in the streets today. Same way with I'm Not Dying With You. You can see there's a black girl and a white girl matching, looking at each other on the cover. This is based on a true story. 2 girls, a black girl and a white girl, are caught up in a riot that breaks out after a football game, and they have to kind of, even though they don't know each other, work together to figure out how to stay safe as things get more and more dangerous as the night goes on. The real incident happened in Baltimore, and the authors of the book lived there at the time and decided they wanted to take that real incident and look at what it would have been like if 2 strangers had to figure it out together. This is Internment, and it is the story of Layla. Layla is a 17-year-old American. Her family are Muslims, and when there is a decision made by the federal government that all Muslim Americans represent a danger to other citizens, they are rounded up and put in internment camps, much like the Japanese during World War II. It's unbelievable to Layla that this is happening to her. She's been a typical American teenager. Her parents are successful professionals, and once they land in the camp, trying to figure out what comes next or what ultimately is going to happen to them, including are they going to be able to escape and move past it, is what this book is about. It's fiction at this point, but there's always a lot of talk about when we start to isolate, immigrants, new undocumented people, there's a lot of fear of how far that policy can go. So that's internment. I want to talk for just a second about nonfiction books that read like incredible fiction. This is the Family Romanov. If you don't know the Romanov family, they were the last royal family of Russia before there was a communist revolution. The head of the country, the Tsar Nicholas, was married to the Tsarina Alexandra, and they had 4 daughters and 1 son. When the revolution comes, and it talks about how that comes to happen in Russia, the entire royal family was arrested and taken to one of their summer palaces. From there, they were moved even further into the interior of Russia, into Siberia. They were held at a very small house, and one night, while they believed that they were going to be rescued by their relatives in England, soldiers came in and shot the entire family. For years, there were all kinds of theories that some of them had escaped and were still alive, and they talk about that a little bit. So when you read this story, it reads like an incredible, like, intrigue action novel, and when you realize every bit of it is true, it's an amazing journey. 57 Bus, same way. It reads like a novel, but it's an absolutely true story. It's about a kid who's on a bus wearing a skirt. Other kids get on the bus, and when that kid wearing the skirt falls asleep, they start playing with the lighter and ultimately set the skirt on fire, set the kid on fire. Kid has to be hospitalized. What happens after that to the kids who set the fire, to the kid who was on fire, to his family? This story explores everything that they went through legally. The story unfolds where you just want to read the next page because it's like, what is happening here? And all the twists that it takes. You think certain things are going to happen, but they don't follow out that way. When you, again, realize that it's a true story, it's an amazing story. I want to mention really quick Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. If any of you watch The Daily Show, you know Trevor Noah. He is the host and a comedian. He was born in South Africa, and his mother was Black, his father was white, and at that time, that was a crime to have interracial relationships, much less children. So his very existence put his mother in danger of being arrested for a crime and placing him in an orphanage. So he talks about what it was to be hidden when he was younger, and it's a great biography. Historical fiction, I don't know who's gonna read this, but I gotta talk about The Lovely War. This book blew me away. It was probably my favorite, it's gonna be my favorite of 2020. It's the story of a young girl who meets a soldier right before he is shipped off to fight in World War II. They agree to meet again, but when something happens that prevents their meeting, she believes that he has left her behind. He believes that she didn't care for him. He goes to war. She takes a position working to support the war effort, and the book and the story unfold as they meet and separate and meet and separate. And every time, your heart just twists up more and more. Such an intriguing story. If you like historical fiction, this is for you. It's amazingly written by Julie Berry. If you're not a realistic fiction person, read it anyways, because the writing and the story and the 2 characters make it so worthwhile. Same way for Ruta Septi's Salt to the Sea. Everything she writes is amazing, but this one blew me away. I know a lot of things about World War II. That's a period of history that I learned a lot about. This book talks about an incident that I had never heard of, specifically the worst loss of life shipwreck ever, and I'd never even heard of it. So it takes place as the war is winding down. People are fighting to get back into Germany because the Russian soldiers are coming, and if the Russians catch you, your fate may be worse than what awaits you in Germany. So there's a young girl and a boy and another teenage friend, not friend, but they have come together with a group that's trying to get on a ship to get across the Baltic Sea to get back into Germany. And it's very treacherous, very perilous. People are dying along the way. There's very little to eat. The girl faces the risk of being assaulted if she's caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's also a character, a young Nazi, who is supposedly going to help everybody who's trying to get on the boats, but really has a whole different agenda. This book is a novel. The characters are fictional, but the information and the basics of the story are absolutely realistic, and I couldn't even breathe when I was done with this one. So that's Salt to the Sea. I hope that you find something here of interest to you, realistic, historic, graphic novel, novel and verse. Try something a little bit different. Hope you love something. Bye.